Good morning, man, and welcome to the first Ultimate 216 show of the 2026 calendar year. It's your boy, Earl of Pearl, and you know the vibes. You woke up this morning, damn it, you already won. I hope you are doing something right now that your future self will thank you for, man. I hope everybody's first 7 days of the year is off to a solid start. I hope whatever resolutions and goals that you set for yourself, that everything is off and running in a positive way. Do me a favor, man. Like, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And if you are in the chat right now, drop and let us know, man, where you watching from. I always like to know where our viewers is tuning in from. We get people tuning in from all over the country and from other countries. We got a lot to talk about, not too much time to get into it. Before we start talking about the Cleveland Browns head coaching search being on the way, it's a good time to let you know that this episode of the Ultimate 216 show is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast, y'all. One big play and suddenly everything feels differently. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live player props updates as guys heat up. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, so the Cleveland Browns head coaching search is underway. Andrew Berry spoke to the media a few days ago, and he said it right then and there. The coaching search will start as soon as this interview ended. Per multiple reports, the Cleveland Browns have reached out to Todd Monken, who is the offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, and Aden Durde, who is the defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Little backstory on Aden Durde real quick. So he's been around the NFL since 2014. Got his NFL coaching start as an intern with the Dallas Cowboys. He spent some time as a defensive assistant with the Atlanta Falcons, outside linebackers coach. He went back to Dallas in 2021 as a defensive line coach. He held that position for 3 seasons. And for the last 2 seasons, he has been the defensive coordinator up there in Seattle. I'm pretty sure everybody paid attention to what the Seattle Seahawks did this last year. And their defense was pretty good. From what I was told, he doesn't call the plays there. So I don't know how much that will play into what the Cleveland Browns want to do. Then Todd Monken. Everybody knows the name Todd Monken, who was actually here as the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator for a short stint, I believe, with Freddie Kitchens, if I'm not mistaken. So he spent the last 3 years as the offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody know the name. He won back-to-back national championships as the OC with the Georgia Bulldogs. And if you remember what Andrew Berry said, right? He said he really wasn't looking for somebody, whether it was in particular on the defensive side of the ball or on the offensive side of the ball. But what he really wanted was a true leader and a true partner, somebody that just fits what's going on. Former NFL quarterback Sean King was on our show yesterday. He was asked which direction that the Browns should go in, and he said it didn't matter to him either. Just make sure you get the right fit. And I thought about this a lot because I've seen a lot of the, fan engagement on social media. I've heard other media members talk about which direction the Browns should go in and why. And I got to thinking about Ryan Day, of all people. And just hear me out for a minute, right? In my opinion, I like how Ryan Day goes about his business as the head coach of the Ohio State Buckeyes. He puts himself in a position to where he just acts as the CEO. He hires quality people, delegates all those assignments to whatever group that is, whether it be the special teams group, the defensive group, or the offensive group. And he trusts the guys that he's hired to do a phenomenal job. Those coaches come back. They meet during the week. Essentially, Ryan Day shows up on Saturdays, and he coaches his entire football team. And over the years, we've seen the Ohio State Buckeyes have a lot of success. with various defensive coordinators that have marquee names. I know we didn't win a national championship this year, but a guy like Matt Patricia, for example, or when we had Chip Kelly as our offensive coordinator, right? There's been rumors swirling that Brian Dable might be coming in, a former Giants coach, as the Ohio State Buckeyes next offensive coordinator. And so Ryan Day likes to empower guys who have experience, quality skill sets on whatever side of the ball it is, and let them do their job. And it got me thinking about the Cleveland Browns, because for me, I'm not really sure if I care about what your archetype is, right? I guess I want to know if you are a leader of men, or if you're a guy that can, build a healthy culture here in the city of Cleveland. Are you a coach, should I say, that can hire the right people, delegate the task, and trust the people that you hired to do a phenomenal job? And one of the reasons why I wanted to see a coaching change was because I just felt like the culture here with the Cleveland Browns has soured a little bit. I thought Kevin Stefanski did a phenomenal job in the beginning of his tenure of getting things turned around. Clearly, he's been the most successful coach we've had since we returned in 1999. But somewhere, somehow, something went wrong, and we were never able to really right the ship in a consistent fashion. And so I think a lot of Browns fans was ready to move on from that. So as we started this search for a new head coach, and Andrew Berry talked about, just finding the right leader, the right guy that meshes. And I know, again, fans might have their favorites based on philosophy, based on character, based on whatever reasons that they have. I know a lot of conversation has been centered around, well, a Brian Flores, for example. We'll talk about him a little bit later in this episode. You hire a Brian Flores as your head coach, more than likely you are going to lose Jim Schwartz, and you're going to have to overhaul a solid part of that defensive roster, because Flores' base is a 3-4 system. And so as we get off and running with this episode, I am curious to know who's on your list. And if you got any candidates that you really, really like, names that you might not have seen on social media, man, feel free to drop those in the chat, because I am interested to know who's on your list. There's a name that popped up late last night that got Browns fans excited everywhere. It got me excited, and we are going to talk about that next. But right now is a good time to let you know, yet again, man, hey, subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Listen, this show airs this morning at 11 o'clock this morning. We're going to have a brand new episode of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. I think the panel today is G. Bush, Dustin Fox, Adam the Bull. They're going to get into all the minutia behind the Cleveland Browns, the guys that they've requested, and talk about John Harbaugh, talk about other guys that are on their list. So make sure you check that out. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show coming at you at 11 o'clock. Remember, like, subscribe, ring that bell to stay into the know. All right, so a lot of y'all know by now, man. Late last night, the Baltimore Ravens made the decision to move on from tenured coach John Harbaugh, former Super Bowl champion. He's had sustained success with the Baltimore Ravens, and the internet went crazy, man. He immediately jumped to the top of everybody's board as the best available coach. I seen an article that his agent said, man, within 45 minutes, he was getting calls from teams everywhere who was interested in interviewing John Harbaugh. And Browns fans, of course, share the same excitement, right? We want to get a guy in here who is a CEO type, a guy that, can hire the right people, can delegate, can, turn his culture around, get the most out of his team, and somebody that cares, man. So who is John Harbaugh, man? John Harbaugh is 63 years old. He's from Toledo, Ohio. His mom actually is from East Cleveland, Ohio. Shout out to everybody in EC. And she's a graduate of Shaw High School. From everything I've been told, that the entire family is lifelong Browns fans. So what cool story would it be if the Browns were somehow able to land John Harbaugh, bring him home to the city of Cleveland, and turn this franchise around? He has a record of 180 and 113, former Super Bowl champion. He's had 4 AFC championship game appearances, 12 playoff appearances, 6 AFC North championships, and he has 15 seasons of a record of 500 or better. that is like a million times better than anything that the Cleveland Browns have had. And for me, I was joking yesterday, telling Mikey McNuggets, I said, listen, man, I got my own list and I'll reveal my list here shortly. But for me, it became one of those things that, hey, look, I know you got to fulfill the Rooney rule, right? But if the Browns is down, just not to waste the time of a brother that's actually out here trying to get one of these gigs, I go in and fulfill the Rooney rule, right? I do a 10-minute interview, check all the boxes off if it meant we was finna land John Harbaugh and get ready to turn this thing around. I think that that is a guy who can come in here and give an infusion of energy and hope into this fan base because we've seen what a from afar what he was able to do with the Baltimore Ravens. I don't know if the Browns will, consider Harbaugh. They definitely should. They damn sure should. And somebody tweeted at me yesterday, and I couldn't agree. Jimmy Haslam needs to operate with the same amount of desperation and enthusiasm as he did when he went to try to go secure Deshaun Watson. Basically, keep that same energy across the board and go get the one coach who's become available in this recent coaching pool that stands out and is a difference maker, right? Because everybody else that we talk about is going to be a retread head coach who hasn't had the success that he's had, or a first time head coach who's a former defensive or offensive coordinator who we don't know, right? There's a big question mark on what that will look like. And so the opportunity to land a guy like John Harbaugh is very, very intriguing for Cleveland Browns fans. So I want to know what y'all think about that. Drop that in the chat. Drop a 1 in there if you down with John Harbaugh being the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Drop a 2 in there if you would kind of rather go a different direction, right? When we talk about what the Browns need and, the direction of this organization and this franchise, is funny because he made his mark as a special teams guy. And I heard Andrew Berry loud and clear. He doesn't really have a preference when it comes to, are you a special teams guy, offensive guy, or defensive guy? More so, are you the right guy? Are you the right guy to lead this organization, which is a young group, by the way? And can you restore a winning culture here? And so John Harbaugh, in my opinion, is a guy that can get the most out of a situation like this one, right? The roster is turning over. By most accounts, this is not really a quality roster, but you see what he just dealt with this last season in Baltimore, where I think they had like 15-20% of their starters on IR or injured for the majority of the season. And they still found themselves in a situation to where they could have won a division championship. Now, granted, it wasn't the best quality of season, but this game is about winning and putting yourself in a position to qualify for the playoffs and go chase a Super Bowl at said time. And by all accounts, they did that. I think this is a situation to where you look at him being in the same place for 18 years. It was probably just time for a change there, right? He maybe wanted to do something different. Maybe that organization wanted to go in a different direction, but football was birthed right here in Northeast Ohio. And if you are in Northeast Ohio, then you know about those names and those families that have really put a stamp on football at some part. Harbaugh even coached at Miami of Ohio, but I think about the Harbaugh family. I think about the Stoops family. I think about the McDaniel family. Just people who have really, have boots on the ground in Northeast Ohio and have kind of, help carve out a name for themselves as a quality coach right here in our backyard. John Harbaugh, in my opinion, he one of us. And if the Cleveland Browns can find a way to bring him home, then damn it, hey, go bring John Harbaugh home. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it. We got one more segment to get to again. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is coming at you live at 11 a.m. Mikey McNuggets got a fire show put together for y'all. Adam the Bull is going to lead a panel with Dustin Fox and G. Bush. And of course, man, if you haven't already checked out the Ultimate Cleveland Cavaliers show from earlier this morning, make sure you check that out either after this show or after our flagship show. But Mike, Jason Lloyd, man, has some fire content. The Cavs got a dub yesterday without Donovan Mitchell, beat the Indiana Pacers on the road 120-116. Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle has some really, really promising things to say from his point of view of what he think about the Cleveland Cavaliers organization. So make sure you check that out. All right, so if you follow me on social media and right there you see it, Earl of Pearl _ 216. If you are not following me on X, man, do your boy a favor. Help me run my followers back up after I got my old page hacked, man. Follow me on X. I got a tweet out there about, a list I put together as it was like an initial list, no particular order of candidates that I had in mind. And this was before John Harbaugh became available. So for the sake of this segment, for the sake of conversation, we are going to structure this as if the Browns don't land John Harbaugh. But let me be clear. John Harbaugh is at the top of any list that I will make going forward until he is no longer in consideration to be the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. So let me pull this list up and we go through it real quick before we get up out of here. All right, first up on the list, this is the guy that, has come up a lot, Brian Flores, right? Tyvis Powell said yesterday that Brian Flores won't be an option because he believes that he will be going to Las Vegas where they have the number 1 overall pick. And a guy that he's very familiar with, Tom Brady, is running things. He was the Miami Dolphins head coach from 2019 to 2021 with a record of 24-25. Defensive coordinator jobs in Minnesota, Pittsburgh, and New England. He's been an NFL coach since 2008, 4-time Super Bowl champion with 1 New England Patriots. The reason why I have Flores on the list is because just his demeanor, his body language, and how he goes about things, he gives me this vibe that he's a no-nonsense type of guy, that he's the type of guy that will hold people accountable. And a lot that plays into why I believe the second part about holding people accountable is, he coached up under Bill Belichick for forever. And he knows what it takes. He's seen it firsthand of what it takes to win a Super Bowl. He came out and he was very vocal about he didn't really want Tua as his quarterback. As time went on, he seems like he was pretty much right about that. So now the con is Brian Flores is a guy who runs a 3-4 defensive scheme, which again, that will probably mean a massive roster overall on that side of the ball, and you won't have Jim Schwartz. Now, Sean King said something else yesterday that I agree with. If you want to get the right guy in here, the right fit in here, then you really can't afford to be able to dictate terms of who they got to keep and who they need to move on from, things like that. That just ain't gonna cut it. Next up on my list, where is he at? Where my guy at? I have Mike LaFleur. He is the current Rams offensive coordinator. He is the younger brother of Packers head coach Matt LaFleur. He was the Jets offensive coordinator from 2021 to 2022. Previous stops, San Francisco, Atlanta, and right here in Cleveland. I guess he was an offensive intern back in 2014. Why is he appealing to me? Because it's plain and simple. Anybody that comes from the Sean McVay coaching tree, I am in kind of like, I don't know. I have this blind faith that, what, they know what it is to be a part of a winning culture. They know how to build up a winning franchise, and just maybe they've learned a thing or two from Sean McVay while they've been there. Next up on my list was Jeff Hafley. He is the current Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator. For some odd reason, one of my favorite people that's on this list, he was the head coach at Boston College from 2020 to 2023. He has a career record of 21-26. Previous stops in San Francisco. He was in Cleveland a long time ago. I think he was a defensive backs coach. He was at Ohio State, Tampa Bay. He was 2014, 2015. Hafley is a guy that comes from the Kyle Shanahan tree. And the running mantra lately in the NFL, if you want a quality coach, or if you want a quarterback who then kind of had to go to school or training, so to speak, you go get somebody from the Shanahan or the McVay tree. And so that's why he is intriguing to me. Next up on my list, where he at? Where my man at? I had Joe Brady. He is currently the Bills offensive coordinator. He's been on the staff since 2022. Previous stop in Carolina, he was with LSU. Of course, that's where he really, put boots on the ground and started to make his name. Won a national championship there with one Joe Burrow. Here's why he's intriguing to me. You talk about a young offensive mind. You talk about a guy who's familiar with the college game. And we all know the parallels and the marriages that have started to become more frequent with pairing what quarterbacks did in college and trying to have that transfer over into NFL success. A lot of the times, these quarterbacks, a lot of them play out of the gun. They might have an issue with the terminology and things like that. And when you get somebody that's familiar with the college game, I think you can help speed up that learning process. Lastly, on my list is another guy from the Sean McVay tree. It is one Chris Shula, current defensive coordinator. He's been on the staff there since 2017. He spent time in San Diego, of course, spent time in college, won a Super Bowl there with the Rams, and played linebacker at Miami of Ohio. So that's somebody else that's familiar with this area. Again, young guy. He is a defensive mind, but he comes from the McVay tree. And for me, I think what's more important to me personally, rather than offensive guy or defensive guy, are you a culture builder? Are you a leader of men? Are you a guy that knows how to hire the right people and delegate those tasks, appropriately, and then trust those people that you empower to do the work? So that's my list. Outside of Harbaugh, I have Brian Flores, Mike LaFleur, Jeff Hafley, Joe Brady, Chris Shula. Again, the Cleveland Browns have already requested interviews with Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monken and Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator Aden Durde. So I want John Harbaugh. Now that John Harbaugh is available, I'm willing to play my part to fulfill the Rooney Rule. It'd be interesting to see what other candidates come out as, guys that Andrew Berry want to sit down and talk to. For Andrew Berry, man, we know like the quarterback decision is important, but this has now become and will be to date the most important decision that he makes as general manager of this football team, being who the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns is. So it's been an episode of the Ultimate 216 Show, a solo episode at that, man. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, share this episode with people. Y'all know I love y'all. Till next time I'm in the building, remember, be great, spread love. Being great come with a price. Spread love is priceless. Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show is coming at you live at 11 a.m. Make sure y'all stay tuned. Till next time, peace, man. I'll talk to y'all soon.